As part of the Clevis project, you're going to need to create a set of working drawings. A set of working drawings is a series of drawings that would show somebody how to create all of the parts and how to put them together into an assembly. So to get started, you would create all of your parts, you would create your assembly, and then you would create your drawing file. Your drawing file will have several drawings in it within the one file. So as you start creating your drawings, don't put them in separate files, put them into one file. And to create a drawing file, what I'm going to show you in this tutorial is how to get it set up with an Imperial border in it, and then we'll move on to a series of tutorials on how to create the different drawings that you're going to create. So I'm going to go up to New. I'm going to go down to the drawing area, and again I'm going to make sure I'm on English units. I'm going to say ANSI m.dwg, sorry, ANSI inch.dwg. I'm going to click on that and say create. And now it's opened up a new drawing file. So over here it says drawing 1, and notice again I've got my ribbons, but they're a different set of ribbons than with either assembly or part files. And I've got my tree. So in here, what I want to take a look at is the drawing resources. If I click on the plus sign, notice that there's sheet formats. So that would give you the size of the drawing that you're creating. There's borders. Right now there's just a default border. So this is the border. It's the 4 lines around the outside. There's title blocks. There's 2 different title blocks that are loaded in to begin with in this template. Right now it's the ANSI large that is selected. So that's the title block down in here. And then there's AutoCAD blocks. That's something we don't need to worry about very much. And then this is your first drawing. It's called Sheet 1 right now. So what we can do is we can click on that and give it a name. So let's call this Clevis, or sorry, Detail Clevis. And this is going to be an orthographic drawing of the of just the Clevis part. So I say Detail Clevis. I've got inside it, it's taken the default border from the drawing resources and the ANSI large title block. I don't like this size of sheet. This is a C-size sheet, and we can't really work with that. So I'm going to click on Detail Clevis 1 and go down. So I right-clicked with my mouse and go down to Edit Sheet. Here I could have changed the name in here. That would have been faster. And I'm going to select the size of sheet of paper that I want, which is an A-size sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11. I don't need to worry about the orientation of the title block. That'll just change where the title block shows up. However, I'm going to create my own, so I'm not worried about that right now, but make sure it's landscape and say OK. And now that's what the A-size sheet of paper looks like with the ANSI large title block. Obviously that one's way too big. So I'm going to click on it down here under Detail Clevis 1, right-click on it and say Delete. And then if I want to put in a different title block, I can go up into the drawing resources, just double-click on it, and that now goes into the active drawing. So right now I've got this drawing here, which is Detail Clevis. So now I've got ANSI A. And notice that it's got some field text. So I can right-click on it and say Edit Field Text, and then these are all the things that can be entered in. And we're going to create our own title block with our own field text that will be entered in each time you start a new drawing. And so I would type in my information here, and it will show up down in here. So I'll just show you that the title. Actually, this one's not going to let me input here, so I'm just going to cancel. And here's my title block. Again, I don't like this border and this title block. It just takes up too much space in the drawing. So I want to be able to create my own. So I'm going to, in this drawing, I'm going to right-click and delete. I'm also going to delete the border. So I'm going to right-click and delete. They still exist up in the drawing resources, but now I'm going to create my own. So to do that, I'm going to go to Manage, up on the ribbon, and I'm going to go over to the middle here where it says Border. I'm actually going to make my border be both border and title block rather than having them be separate. But by all means, you could do a separate title block if you wanted to. Where that's useful is if you're going to have use a variety of title blocks. In some cases you want one title block, and in another case you'd like a different title block. But we're going to use the same one. So I'm going to say border. And notice that it switches me into sketch mode, very much like if I was doing a part. And so now I can just sketch out my border. I could have, I'll just finish that one, say cancel or discard. And I could actually have, in the border, I could have gone and insert an AutoCAD file of the Imperial border that we've already got. The thing is, I find it takes almost as much time to change the text in the to get the font and the size of the text correct. So you might as well just draw out a new one. But by all means, you can do that if you'd like. Just beware, when you click on the ACAD and you try to open up your drawing, it will take a very long time for it to open. So you'll think that nothing's happening, but just wait for it. It is working. So I'm going to go over to the rectangle command, and I'm just going to draw out a rectangle. Okay, and now I could have put in the dimensions as I was working. That would have been faster, but I'll just type in, I want my border to be 10 by 7.5. That's the size of our Imperial border for an A-size sheet of paper. Now I need to locate it. So while I'm still in the dimension command, or if you're not, then go to dimension, click on this bottom corner, click on the bottom corner of the page, and I want to set this dimension, the vertical dimension, to be 0.5. And then I'm going to do the exact same dimension, except for this time, instead of coming off to the side, I'm going to go vertical. And I want that to be 0.5 as well. And now my rectangle is fully constrained and it's been located properly. So now what I need to do is to put in a title block. So I'm going to use a line to do that. I'm going to click somewhere on the left-hand vertical line, make sure that it goes straight across, and click, and then I'm going to dimension it. So I want to dimension from there to there, and set my title block to be 0.5 high. And now I need to add in some text. So I go over to the text command, and I'm going to zoom in just to be able to see better. And now I want to locate my text. I want to make sure that my caps lock button is on, and I'm going to type in what I want it to say, which is title, colon, and then I want the size of the text to be 0.125. Type it in if it's not already there. And actually, I need to highlight the text and then change it to 0.125, or change it first and then type the text. If I hadn't done that, if I hadn't highlighted the text but changed the size afterwards, it would only set it for any characters following. So just watch that you get the text to the right size. Tahoma text is fine, or Times New Roman. We'll say OK, and that's my text. I'm going to escape to finish the text command, and then just go near the text and click on it once, and I get the grips. And now I can grab it. Oops. Now I can just click in here, grab it, and move it to where I think it looks good. Okay. Now one thing that can happen is if your text box is too small, it won't let you type in the text in the title in the earlier dialog box. So just make sure your text box is large enough, or go and change it. Now what I need to do is to copy that text. So I'm going to say copy. I'm going to select the text. It's already selected. Then I'm going to go to base point. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to click on the bottom left corner. It'll just be easy enough for me to work with. I'm going to zoom over, zoom out, and pan over, and make sure that it goes straight across. Okay, we want our text to look professional, so we want it to go straight across. And we need 4 sections. Okay, so now I've got my text in here, and I need some text down below it. So I'm going to copy, and this time I'm going to select, I'm going to hold my shift key. Actually, I don't need to hold the shift key, I can just select each one. Then I can do base point, and I'm going to take this text and I'm going to just shift it over a little bit just to make it look indented. Now I've got text down below. I'm going to go and change the text. I can double click on it. Notice that my text height is correct because I've already set it for the very first one. And I'm going to type in what each one of these should be. Notice that it's gone down to the next line. The reason for that, again, is the size of the text box. It's just a little too small. So I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to zoom in here. And I'm going to make the text box just a little bit bigger until that comes up onto the same line. Okay? Which means I'm probably going to need to now move the other boxes over. So I will click on all of the other text, my shift key to select it all, and now I'm just going to slide it all over a little bit. And again, as you work along, if you need to make changes to things, it's nice and easy to do. I'm going to escape. Click on this one. I don't need to change this one. It'll be fine. So now I'm going to draw in some. I'll wait to draw in the lines until I've got everything put in. And so now I would go through and change what this text all says to match our normal title block. But for the lower text, other than for the drawn by, all of these ones will change as we go through. So what I want to do is I'm going to double click on this one and get the dialog box open up. And this time, instead of just putting in drawing number, I'm going to actually put in question mark, but I'm going to change the type to prompted entry. So I click on where it says type, go down to prompted entry, and it doesn't look any different, but now I can say OK. And I'm just going to need to double click on this and make sure that the text went in. Doesn't look like it did. Okay, so I want that to say drawing number and question mark. I'm going to say OK. There, that looks better. And I just need to widen it out a little bit. Okay. Now this one I need to be scale. I need to say scale, so I'm going to go to prompted entry because that's going to change. I'm going to type in scale question mark. Say OK. Next one is the date. I want it to be the date, but I also don't want to have to memorize my date format, so I'm going to type in mm/dd/yy question mark and say OK. And then I'm going to need to just shift it over just a tiny bit. Okay. And then the last one, I'm going to not make it a prompted entry. I'm going to just put in my name. And again, I'm going to need to adjust the size of the text box. Okay. So now I'm going to slide this one over a little bit, make it look better. Oops, that one shifted up on me, so I don't want to let that happen. So I'm going to, I can actually just stretch it out this way and have it, and then I can stretch this. What I do want to do is move this one over a little bit. So I'll click on this and shift. I want these two to just shift over sideways a bit to give myself some space for the scale in here. Now I'm going to draw in some lines. Separate these sections. And of course I need to go back and change the text in these. I'm going to escape. Sometimes you just need to escape, maybe even zoom in, double click on it. I want this one to say caps lock scale colon. Oops, didn't get the caps lock. Size is already set. This is not prompted entry because it won't be changing. I'm going to say date. And drawn by. Don't forget the colons. Make sure it all looks good. everything's lined up before you ever go and use it, because otherwise you'll have to change it several times over. And then the last one I want to put in is my title text. So I'm just going to select a new piece of text, and I'm going to put in title question mark. And I do need this to be prompted entry since it will change from drawing to drawing. Oops. I'm going to type in title question mark. And I want this one, again, since I didn't change the size ahead of time, I should have. I'm going to make sure that I select all the text, and this time I'm going to make this 0.25. So it's not there, so I'm going to type in 0.25, and that's going to make that text all and 0.25 high, which is double the other. So now I'm going to escape, click on it, and move it into place until it looks good. Okay, and that's a little too low still. I'm just going to move it up a little bit, and that's going to look good. Okay, and now I've got a good looking border, and this is one that I can use on all of my drawings. So now I've finished the sketch. So I can go to Finish Sketch. I'm going to give my border a name. I'm going to call it Imperial A size border, and save. And now my detail clevis doesn't have a border in it. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to click on the drawing resources and then click on borders and then just double click on Imperial A size, and notice that it comes up and it asks me for all the information that I need. Somehow I missed one, so you can see that I've missed the date. I missed date, so I need to go and change that. So I'm going to go cancel. I'm going to click on it, right click, and say, oops, just escape once, click, right click, so, and say edit. I'm going to go back, and that puts me back into sketch mode. So for date, I wanted this one to be a prompted entry. So I'm going to select that, select the text, and say prompted entry. And say OK. And now I've got each of the ones in here. So now I can say Finish Sketch and save yes. And now it comes up and asks me for the date. So I'm going to put in today's date, which is 06/09/15. The scale is going to be something like 1 inch. It might be 1/2 inch equals 1 inch. That's how we type it in Imperial. Drawing number 1, and for now we'll probably change that later. And title is going to be detail clevis. And then say OK. And now I've got all of this stuff in on, sorry, I just need to plus here. Notice that that is now the Imperial border for the detail clevis. If I need to go and change something later, I can just right click on it and say edit field text, and it brings up that same window. Or if I need to actually change something in the border, I can right click and edit definition, and it takes me back into sketch mode again. I'm going to say save no. And then when I go to create a new drawing, I'm going to right click and say new sheet. And notice that it brings up the same information again. It's going to create another drawing for me and within the same file, but I'll be able to create all the information there. So I know I'm going to need one for the pin, so I'm going to type in 06/09/15, and then I'm going to put in the scale. That one might be able to be 1 inch equals 1 inch. I'll have to see. Actually, it won't be able to be because it's going to be 12 inches long, so I'll say 1/2 inch right now. But I can always go back and change it later. Drawing number 2, and this one would be caps lock detail pin, and then say OK. And now I've got a second drawing in here. So I want to change this name. I'm going to say detail pin. Now I've got my two different drawings. I've got detail clevis and detail pin. Notice, I find this confusing, is that the one that's active is the one that is not highlighted. So right now this to me looks like it should be the active drawing is detail clevis 1, but really it's detail pin is the active drawing. If I want to go back to detail clevis pin, I can just double click on it and it becomes the active drawing, and I can make any changes to it. Notice how it is now not grayed out. So and now I can start to put in views. I'll just show you how to put in one view, and then we'll move to another tutorial to actually create the drawing. Okay, so I'll go to Place Views, go to Base. I'm going to go and select the part file. So if I wasn't selected here already, I would click on the Browse and go and find my part and say Cancel. Or sorry, I'm going to say Cancel. You would select it. Now I can select the view, and now I'm going to go and pick where I want to put the view. Click once, and now it'll allow me to put in projected views, projected orthographic views, etc. So I click once there, right click, and say Create. And notice that it's a hidden line view. I could, if I wanted to do project, I could click on the base view and put in a top view if I wanted. I don't want the top view, but I do want a 3D view over here. So I'm going to click there, right click, and say Create. This one I don't want it to be a hidden line one, so I'm going to double click into the view. Notice the outline of the view there, and now I can go and make changes to it. So I'm going to change this to solid, and I'm also going to put in a different scale. I think I'm going to, well, no, I might be able to use the same scale. If I wanted to put in a view identifier, I can click on this pencil, and here I can change what it says in here if I would like, or I can leave it as is. Maybe I want to just get rid of the view and leave in scale, and then whatever the scale of that particular view is, I'm going to say OK. And right now that one is set at 1/4 inch equals 1 inch, so I'm going to need to go and change my title block. And the view identifier won't go in unless I click on the light bulb over here. So now I can go and say OK, and notice that it types in the scale for me. Right? So these views, I can just move them around if I need to. If I move the base view, notice that the orthographic view moves along with it. I'm going to want to spread this out a little bit, and I think this is too big here, so I could double click and change that maybe to be 1/8 is going to be too small, but let's try it just to show you. Okay, now it's made it much smaller. I'm going to go for something in between there, but we'll do that in the next tutorial. We'll get this all set up. And don't forget then that you would need to change, if this is going to be set up at 1/4 inch, then I can go in and edit my field text. So I go over to the tree here, edit field text, and change this to say 1/4. Say OK. Now I've got a drawing created. For all of my drawings, I can go and just create a new sheet, and it's going to create a new sheet, and it'll put in the same border and allow me to fill in the title block as I go. And then don't forget to go and save your file. So File, Save As, and make sure it goes into the clevis. I call it Drawing Clevis, and then we would move on from there. I'm going to call this Drawing Clevis 2, just because I've already got one started. And say Save. And again, just a final reminder, do not make separate drawing files for the separate drawings. All your drawings are going to be in this one file for the clevis project. And that's the end of the tutorial.